Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So inshallah, just a quick reminder, maybe there's no need for that reminder, but of course next week we're off because of the conference, inshallah. We'll come back, inshallah, the Saturday after it by the help of Allah Azza wa Jal. And maybe we'll see how much we cover today. It's possible that if we cover a lot, that the week when we come back, inshallah, that'll be the conclusion of this book, but we'll see, inshallah. We're not going to rush, but it's a possibility, inshallah. The last thing we talked about, if you remember, we touched on, because that's the last thing he said. He said, وَمِلَاكُ الْأَمْرِ الدُّعَاء, Ibn Qudamah, Rahim of Allah, in his advice. And by the way, this advice is supposed to be built in practice. It's not just something that we gonna know and be entertained by or spend time learning. It's also something that he's saying, do this and do that. Louder? Okay, I can bring it closer. And that, inshallah, could fix it. Okay. I don't know if this is better or is this okay?
Yes, thank you.
Inshallah. Okay. I don't know if this goes higher. Maybe not. Okay. So, this is something that has to be built and incorporated into our own practice. So when he's talking about dua, in fact, from the beginning of the book to the end of the book is about what we're supposed to do. So now is section about dua. And he says, Rahim of Allah, وَلْيَكُنْ دُعَاءُكَ بِخُضُوعٍ وَخُشُوعٍ. Let your dua be. He's going to teach you how to make dua. Let your dua be بِخُضُوعٍ وَخُشُوعٍ, with humility and submissiveness to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is how you're going to approach Allah. How are you going to be asking Allah Azza wa Jal? He says بِخُضُوعٍ وَخُشُوعٍ وَبُكَاءٍ وَتَضَرُّعٍ, and while crying and pleading with Allah Azza wa Jal to grant you and give you and forgive you. فَإِنَّ بَعْضَهُمْ قَالَ, because some of them have said, إِنِّي لَأَعْلَمُ حِينَ يَسْتَجِيبُ لِي رَبِّي, I know when Allah Azza wa Jal is going to answer my dua. But he sees these signs. He said, what are these signs? قَالَ إِذَا وَجَلَ قَلْبِي, he says, when my heart is connected to Allah and it's fearful of Allah. It feels that fear of Allah. It's in it. وَاخْشَعَرَّ جِلْدِي, and my skin shivers. I feel the shivers. وَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاي, and my eyes swell up with tears. وَفُتِحَ لِي فِي الدُّعَاء, and I keep making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal. He opens the door of dua for me. So he's saying that Allah here opens the door of dua, so I'm making it and I'm physically reacting to it. My skin, my eyes, what else did he say? And my heart are all reacting to it. He says these are signs that I am connected to my dua, and he says that's a sign that Allah is accepting my dua. And he also records that Umm Darda have said to Shahr ibn Hawshab, she said, أَمَا تَجِدُ قَشْعَرِيرًا, he says, don't you shiver sometimes? And I think she means from the fear of Allah, from the love of Allah, with connection to Allah, when reading the Quran, don't you sometimes get this shiver? He says, yes. قَالَتْ فَدْعُ عِنْدَهَا, she said, then make dua at that moment. فَإِنَّ الدُّعَاءَ يُسْتَجَابُ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ, because indeed dua is accepted at that moment. When you're reacting to the remembrance of Allah and reacting to your dua and very close to it, he says dua is to be accepted then. Now where do they bring this from? Right? That doesn't directly come from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. He says if you see 1, 2, 3 means that dua is being accepted. They're taking it from the fact that you're present and conscious. This is what they're talking about. You're fearful, you're loving of Allah, you're present and you're conscious, and you feel that proximity to Allah. He says that is a sign that your dua is being accepted, that Allah wants from you to make dua, and He wants from you to make dua because He wants to accept that dua from you. He led you to it so that He can accept it. Right? فَتَحَ لَكَ بَابْ لِكَيْ تَلِجْ, He opens the door for you so that you would do what? Enter. He opens the door so you can enter. So He opens the door of dua so that you can enter. That's what He wants from you. So when He facilitates dua for you, or He facilitates, without arrogance by the way, but facilitates any act of obedience for you, and He makes it easy, He does that so that you would do it and He would accept it from you. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign. You find in yourself that you're eager to pray, and eager to fast, eager to make dua, eager to donate. He opens this door so that He can accept that ibadah from you. And He says it is reported that Allah revealed to Musa alayhi salam. And again, it does not matter if this actually happened to Musa alayhi salam or not, because these stories are reported in these types of books without a chain. So and so said that Allah revealed to Musa alayhi salam. So here what's important is not whether that actually was revealed to Musa or not, but the wisdom that is contained in it. And if the wisdom that is contained in it is valid and sound, we accept it, without attributing that necessarily to Musa alayhi salam. If the wisdom is wrong, we reject it, because it's not coming from a prophet through a authentic chain. But here it is said that Allah told to Musa, Ya Musa, إذا ذكرتني فاذكرني وأعضاؤك تنتفض. He says, O Musa, when you want to remember me and mention my name, mention me when you're shivering. Mention me when you're shivering. Shivering out of what? It can come out, as I said, fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, loving Allah Azza wa Jal, but you're reacting, your body is so close that it's reacting to my name. وَأَعْضَاؤُكَ تَنْتَفِض. Your limbs, right, are shaking. وَإِذَا دَعَوْتَنِي فَاجْعَلْ لِسَانَكَ مِنْ وَرَاءِ قَلْبِكَ. And if you are going to make dua, let your tongue stand behind your heart. It's a nice expression. فَاجْعَلْ لِسَانَكَ مِنْ وَرَاءِ قَلْبِكَ. So it's not the tongue that is just simply moving. Where's your heart? So he's saying, where is your heart? So it's not that the tongue is simply moving, but the tongue is moving from behind the heart, meaning it's the heart primarily that is making the dua. And the tongue is doing what? Expressing the desire and the sentiments of the heart. So it's not heart without tongue without heart. It's heart that is moving the tongue to say what it wants from Allah Azza wa Jal. So the heart is engaged in ibadah, and the tongue is engaged in ibadah at the same time. And what happens when it's only the tongue and the heart is not present? وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَسْتَجِيبُ دُعَاءً مِنْ قَلْبٍ غَافِلٍ لَاهٍ. Know that Allah does not accept a dua from a heart that is ghafil and lahi, absent, distracted. Okay? So it's good that the tongue is moving with dua. It's good that the tongue is moving with dhikr, but you want to really attach the heart to it so that you really get the answer from Allah Azza wa Jal. And He says, وَإِذَا قُمْتَ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ فَقُمْ مَقَامَ الذَّلِيلِ الْحَقِيرِ. And He says, if you stand before me, He says, between my hands, stand the position or assume the position of the humble, the insignificant one. وَذُمَّ نَفْسَكَ فَهِيَ أَوْلَى بِالذَّمِّ. And criticize yourself and blame yourself, because it is most worthy of blame. So what is it that Allah Azza wa Jal wants from you? Okay, when you're standing to plead and ask Allah Azza wa Jal, I'll tell you, let's just finish this part. وَنَاجِنِي حِينَ تُنَاجِينِي بِقَلْبٍ وَجِلٍ. Communicate with me when you're communicating with a fearful heart. وَلِسَانٍ صَادِقٍ. And a truthful tongue. What is it that Allah Azza wa Jal wants from you and me in that position when you're asking Allah for dua? He wants you to completely humble yourself before Allah, completely submit to Him, completely assign all power to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all praise to Him. And then all blame, if there is any blame, to the self, not to Allah Azza wa Jal. And what humanity does, and what a lot of us do, even as Muslims, is that when we assign blame, we switch this around. We assign blame to Allah, the Creator, and to destiny, and exonerate ourselves. We're not responsible. We're good and we don't deserve this. Rather than saying that we have done some things that are bad, it doesn't mean that we are horrible beings. Okay, because some people, when they think like that, they despair. They fall in despair. It doesn't mean necessarily that we're horrible beings, but we have done some bad things and sometimes some horrible things. So it's these horrible things that distance us from Allah and bring on the agony of sin and the agony of any calamity in this life. So he says, when you're standing before me, completely submit yourself to me. See yourself as insignificant, nothing before me. Me having everything and you having nothing. And when you humble yourself like that before Allah Azza wa Jal, that is when Allah accepts your dua. That is the position. Right? And one thing, that comes to mind, and we may relate it to one or a couple of things that will come inshallah, is that one of the ulama, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said, he's a scholar, okay, a big scholar, one of the biggest scholars that we have. He says, when I research a topic and I don't find the answer in the books, I don't find the answer with people. He said, what he used to do, he says he would go to a ruin. No one would know about it, but they report that about him. He would go to a ruin, and then he would prostrate in sujood to Allah Azza wa Jal on the sand, right, for a long time. And he will say, Ya Muallima Ibrahim, allimni, Ya Mufahhima Sulaiman, fahimni. He says, O teacher of Ibrahim, teach me. O the one who gave Sulaiman understanding, give it to me. Alayhimus salam. He's talking about the prophets of Allah. O you who taught them, teach me. And where does he, what spot does he use? A ruin. Because that is the spot least likely to inspire any arrogance in a human being. Because when you see it, you remember your own decay and the decay of humanity. So you're completely humble there, and you take the most humble part of your body. That's what we do in our sujood. And you put it as low as possible on sand. And he's saying, Ya Allah, teach me. Ya Allah, teach me. Ya Allah, teach me. And it is then, he says, when I do that, it is then that Allah Azza wa Jal starts giving him insight that he did not have before. So where does it come from? It comes from that complete surrender to Allah Azza wa Jal. So he says here, وَفَوِّضْ أَمْرَكَ إِلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Entrust your affairs, all of them, to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَاسْتَطْرِحْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. And throw yourself between His hands. Okay, so I want you to feel this as he's saying this, inshallah. And in any time, inshallah, this goes low, inshallah, and you can't hear me, let me know, inshallah, because it keeps dropping. So he says, وَفَوِّضْ أَمْرَكَ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Entrust all of your affairs to Allah Azza wa Jal. All of the things that are bothering you, all the things that are distressing you, that are heavy, you give that to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَاسْتَطْرِحْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ. Throw yourself between His hands. وَأَشْعِرْ قَلْبَكَ. And let your heart feel. أنه لا ينالك من الرزق والخير إلا ما كتبه الله لك ولو اجتهدت فيه بحيلة السماوات والأرض. He says, and let your heart feel that you're not going to get any rizq, any provision, or any good in this life, except that what Allah had written for you, even if you combine all the might and planning of the heavens and the earth. Right? بحيلة السماوات والأرض. If you were to gather every single being in the heavens and the earth, and gather all of their planning and acumen and strength, physical strength and mental strength, and you say, benefit me with anything that Allah did not write, He says, we will not be able to. Grant me $1 that Allah did not write for me, so that they will not be able to do so. He says, وَاسْتَشْعِرْ. Let your heart feel that. Like really feel it. And no one on the earth and no one in the sky can help you except Allah Azza wa Jal, and then those that Allah allows them to help you. So it flows through them to you because of Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? Because Allah wants them to do that for you. وَلَا يَجْرِي عَلَيْكَ مَا تَكْرَهُ. And nothing bad will happen to you except if Allah has written it for you. That's a hadith, right? That's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. وَلَوْ اجْتَمَعَ عَلَيْكَ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Even if everybody in the heavens and the earth unite against you, فَإِنَّ مَا أَصَابَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُخْطِئَكَ وَمَا أَخْطَأَكَ لَمْ يَكُنْ لِيُصِيبَكَ. He says, what had missed you was never going to hit you, and what had hit you was never going to miss you. Again, that's a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. And that's one of the really important hadiths that we have to remember often. And remind others with it often. That really feel that no one can benefit except Allah, and no one can harm except Allah Azza wa Jal. Humanity doesn't have the power to harm you and benefit you. So that takes from you, what does that do to you? It takes from your heart any fear that you have, or any hope that you have from or in humanity. It takes it away. So you're not going to do. Remember that we talked about riya, and we talked about ujb, showing off, and performing deeds so that you would admire yourself. He says, you're doing this because you still believe that humanity matters and that they can still help you. If you believe that everyone is as helpless as you are or less, you wouldn't do anything to gain their approval. So what am I going to do with their approval? What can he give me? If he is as helpless as I am, like think about it. Sometimes you want to help so-and-so. So many obstacles stop you from doing that. You want to harm so-and-so. So many people stop you from doing this. You're completely helpless. Unless Allah decides that He's going to open that road for you. Otherwise you're helpless. It says then if everybody is helpless as helpless as I am, why am I doing anything for their sake? Why am I afraid of them and their criticism or anything? So you're completely, in a sense, you're completely bulletproof. You have that vest on you. And that vest is Allah's destiny. And Allah's destiny says no one can actually shoot at you except if Allah decides that this bullet is going to hit you. And by the way, if this bullet is going to hit you, it's going to hit you whether you're standing there or not. I'm saying, do consider the means, the asbab. Don't jump from a building, tall building, and say, if Allah destines, I will die. Okay? Yeah, Allah has destined because you jumped. Right? So the means do matter. The means do matter. But we're saying that they do not matter without the permission of Allah Azza wa Jal. So consider the means, but don't assign so much importance and gravity to them. No, it's Allah Azza wa Jal. Then he says something also that is beautiful and to think about. وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ مَنْ هُوَ فِي الْبَحْرِ عَلَى لَوْحٍ ليس هو بأحوج إلى الله تعالى وإلى لطفه ممن هو في بيته وبين أهله وماله. He says, know that if someone is in the middle of the sea, hanging to a plank of wood, right? And the waves of the sea are playing with him, he does not need Allah Azza wa Jal more than you do while you're in your home with your spouse and with your children inside your house. He does not need Allah more than you. And you do not need Allah less than him. Both of you are in fact in the same boat. You just don't see it. He actually can see the danger around him. So what he's doing, he's hanging on to that plank and he's crying out, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, right? But we, when in our safety, in our cocoons, we don't see that. The only thing that we see is that I have my money and I have my car and I have my house and I have my family around, so you feel safe and secure. But he says you're not more safe or secure than that man in the middle of the sea. فَإِنَّ الْأَسْبَابَ الَّتِي ظَهَرَتْ لَهُ بِيَدِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى كَمَا أَنَّ أَسْبَابَ نَجَاةِ هَذَا الْغَرِيقِ بِيَدِهِ. Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal is the one who can save this man in the sea or drown him. And you're right there, your life and death is exactly in the same hand, in the same of Allah, and it's going to be as instantaneous as the life and death of that person. You just don't see it. That's the difference. You just don't see it. فَإِذَا حَقَّقْتَ هَذَا فِي قَلْبِكَ. If you establish this as a truth in your heart, فَاعْتَمِدْ عَلَى اللَّهِ تَعَالَى اعْتِمَادَ الْغَرِيقِ الَّذِي يَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ لَا سَبَبَ لِلنَّجَاةِ لَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. If you establish this as the truth in your heart, trust in Allah and rely on Him like that drowning person is trusting in Allah and relying on Him. Call on Allah like that drowning person is. Because both of us here and that person in the middle of the sea are exactly the same. We're exactly the same. How much does he need Allah? This is how much we need Him. How much is he calling upon Allah? This is how much we should do it. So that image, subhanallah, does reveal to us our complete and utter dependence on Allah Azza wa Jal. قال وعليك بالورع واجتناب الشبهات. He says, and also take wara' in. Wara' is the avoidance of the haram and the ambiguous, suspicious things. That's what he says. واجتناب الشبهات. اجتنب الشبهة. Avoid the shubha. The shubha that looks a little bit like the halal and a little bit like the haram. There's halal and haram mixed in it. You don't know exactly. Is this halal or is it haram? You don't know yet. So he says, عليك بالورع. So in addition to avoiding the haram, he says also put between yourself and the haram that layer, that barrier of those suspicious or ambiguous or unclassified deeds. Don't commit them. Because indeed the one who commits them is about to commit the haram. فَإِنَّ مَنْ رَتَعَ حَوْلَ الْحِمَى أَوْشَكَ أَنْ يَقَعَ فِيهِ. Again, this is in reference to another hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. If there is a protected area that a king has declared for himself and you're grazing around it with your herd. You're around you and your animal. You're about to go into it. That's what he's saying. So if you are circling the haram, and that is those suspicious areas are the things that are surrounding the haram. You keep circling, eventually you're going to be falling into haram. So he's saying in your life, employ that. Wara. Avoiding the haram and what looks like, what is suspicious, what you don't really know that it is clearly halal. قال وعليك بالليل فخل فيه بربك واطلب منه حوائجك. And he says, and seek the night and be alone in it with your Creator, with your Rabb, with your Sustainer, and ask the things that you need from Him then. Ask your needs, submit a list of your needs then to Allah Azza wa Jal. وَتَضَرَّعْ إِلَيْهِ وَاخْضَعْ بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ, and plead with Him and submit yourself to Him. In the world today, subhanAllah, we find ourselves increasingly, the more modern it is, the more of that we're increasingly alone. Okay? We were with ourselves more than we are with other people. You're with your phone, with your tablet, with your email, online. This is usually you are with yourself. So we say, subhanAllah, the best person or the best one to be alone with is Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? Not yourself. Not any other human being. Not chatting with anybody else, but in communicating with Allah Azza wa Jal. The best person to be alone with is Allah Azza wa Jal, and the best time to do this is at night. Why is it at night? Because it's quiet. Everybody's almost asleep. And you can concentrate on this conversation that you're having with Allah Azza wa Jal. And that is the virtue of Qiyamul Layl, night prayer. Why is it so excellent? Because it is that moment where the heart and the tongue can be in agreement, both close to Allah Azza wa Jal. فَإِنَّهُ يُرْوَى. It's reported that someone came to Bishr, it's mentioned here, I'll just translate it. Someone came to Bishr al-Hafi, and he says, I have an issue. So he brought him, he says, what is your issue? He says, رَجُلٌ عَلَيْهِ دَيْنٌ كَثِيرٌ لَا سَبِيلَ إِلَىٰ قَضَاءِ. He says, a man, meaning himself, a man who has a lot of debt. He cannot repay it. Okay? I can't pay that debt. So what did he tell him? قَالَ عَلَيْكَ بِجَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. He says, seek, okay, the interior of the night. I'm literally translating here. Jawful layl, the interior of the night, meaning the inside the night. Go inside the night, because jawf is like a cave or anything that is interior. Go inside the night and speak to Allah Azza wa Jal. Alayka bi jawfil layl. He says, and I went to Abu Abdullah Ahmad ibn Hanbal, Rahim of Allah. And he asked him the same question. I have this debt, I cannot pay it. He says, عَلَيْكَ بِجَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. He said the same exact thing to him. Seek that interior of that night and pray to Allah Azza wa Jal. قَالَ فَدَلَّانِ جَمِيعًا عَلَيْهِ. Both of these two directed me to the same thing. Without any previous agreement between them. Two individuals, different individuals, living at the same time. Bishr al-Hafi is known more as a worshipper of Allah Azza wa Jal, not as a scholar, but as a great worshipper of Allah. Ahmad ibn Hanbal as a great scholar plus a great worshipper of Allah Azza wa Jal. So he went and asked two great people of his time. In fact, we can argue, and at the time of Ahmad rahimahullah, it was probably among the greatest, if not the greatest, and Allah knows best. So he asked two among the greatest people in his time. So imagine you yourself taking that journey with a specific problem. And not just coming to this masjid, and not coming to this city, traveling, and seeking whom you think is the best person that money can enable you to reach. And you say, okay, I have this problem, what do I do? And he just tells you this, عَلَيْكَ بِجَوْفِ اللَّيْلِ. It is as if he is telling you, the answer was already with you. You didn't know. The answer is already with you. The key to your problems is already with you, but you don't know yet. You just need someone to reveal that to you. And what is this revelation? Ask Allah Azza wa Jal in the middle of the night. Because when you ask Allah in the middle of the night, and we'll get more of it inshallah, when you ask Allah in the middle of the night, it is then that Allah Azza wa Jal descends, and it's then that Allah is saying, ask me so I would give you. Allah is telling you, ask me so I would give you. Right? So keep asking Allah during that time. And depending on your need, Subhanallah, if your need is small, sometimes it could be solved in a couple of nights. If your need is big, it could be solved in a week or two, or bigger, a month or two. But it says you never give up, because here you're asking the one that you truly believe has khaza'in as-samawati wal ard. The treasuries of the heavens and the earth are with him, Allah Azza wa Jal. He can give anything as well as he can take anything. And then he says, وَإِذَا سَأَلْتَ فَاسْأَلْهُ وَأَنْتَ مُوقِنٌ بِأَنَّهُ مُطَّلِعٌ عَلَيْكَ نَاظِرٌ إِلَيْكَ سَامِعٌ لِدُعَائِكَ. He says, when you ask Allah, ask Him while you're certain that He's looking at you. Okay? He's observing what you're doing. He can hear your dua and He's close to you. And that's important. You're not calling, فَإِنَّكُمْ لَا تَدْعُونَ غَائِبًا. The Prophet ﷺ, he told the Sahaba, you're not calling upon someone who's distant, okay, or not present. You're asking Allah Azza wa Jal, who's very close to you. When they were on their camels, they said, He's closer to one of you than the neck of the camel to you. While He, Allah Azza wa Jal, is above His throne. But He's closer to you than that neck of camel, the camel which is your right, that you're sitting on it. It's closer to you than that. So you're not asking someone who's distant. And what brings Allah closer to you is your supplication. And you'll feel it in your heart. When you make that dua, you'll feel it in your heart. Especially at night, when it's quiet. No distractions. That when you are in your sujood, or you're raising your hand and you're making this dua, you feel yourself getting closer and closer and closer to Allah. And Allah in fact is getting closer to you. Okay? But you have to make this dua believing that Allah is listening to you. Not say after a few nights, Allah did not answer me, must not be listening to me. No, you have to believe that He's really there and He's listening to you. It's enough that He had opened the door of dua for you. Was it, I think, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu who said, he says, إِنِّي لَا أَحْمِلُ هَمَّ الْإِجَابَةِ وَلَكِنْ أَحْمِلُ هَمَّ الدُّعَاءِ. I'm not carrying with me the burden of the answer of my dua, I carry with me the burden of dua. Am I going to do it or not? The answer is guaranteed. Yeah? The answer, once I ask, the answer is guaranteed. So I'm not worried about that part of the act. I'm worried about, will Allah allow me? Will my sins, that they will, distance me from Allah Azza wa Jal, so I'll not be able to talk. Ijabatik is close to you, able to answer your call. لا يتعاظمه شيء. Nothing is too great for Him. Nothing is too great for Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you ask, ask. When you ask, ask. Of course, within reason, what am I going to say? There's some ridiculous things that you're not going to ask, inshallah, right? They don't make sense. But if you're going to ask Allah Azza wa Jal, don't say, can Allah give me this? Will I be able to be in the highest levels of Jannah? Ask. Right? Ask. Why not ask for that? Why not ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, I want to make da'wah. I want millions to be guided through me. Ask it. If this is really in your heart, ask it. Why not ask this from Allah? It's enough that Allah knows that this is a sincere intent that you have, and that you want that from Him. And maybe He opens a door for da'wah for you, and only a couple of people maybe accept Islam. First, this is enough, that to have accepted Islam. But more than that, if Allah had opened that door, and you walk that door with the intention, I want eventually millions to accept Islam, and He takes your soul before those millions accept, what does He give you? That reward of that thing that you wanted to seek, if the intention is true. The thing, your goal will be given to you. So why stop short? Why belittle yourself? Why say, can it be? Yes, bi'idhnillah. Ask Allah, لَا يَتَعَاظَمُهُ شَيْءٍ. In this life, and we love this life, we get attached to it. Whatever it is, a position, a marriage, a child, a house, whatever it is, you get so attached to this particular thing. It becomes so great in your heart that when you don't get it, you're devastated. But you don't really know if it's good for you or not. And you can think of, or ask, and you will find out example of people who wanted something, and when they got it, they discovered that it was really bad for them. If not sooner, they discovered that it was bad for them later. So how do you know if it's good for you or not? So don't get so attached to it. Say, Ya Allah, if it is good for me, right? Especially matters of this dunya, if it is good for me, Ya Allah, give that to me. And if it's not good for me, take it away, take me away from it, and give me something that is better. This is like the istikhara. Right? Like dua al-istikhara, but without praying dua al-istikhara, because here you're just making dua. So ask Allah that particular thing. فإن لم يعجل لك الإجابة فلا تيأس من الإجابة ولا تمل من السؤال فقد قال بعضهم لقد خار الله لعبد في حاجة أكثر فيها تضرعه. He says, if Allah does not hasten and give you whatever you're asking for, don't despair. Don't give up on the fact that He's going to give this thing to you, or at least answer your dua. And don't get bored. Because it says, it's reported that someone have said, indeed Allah had chosen for someone, if he had asked him for something, and that person keeps pleading with Allah Azza wa Jal to give to him, He says that is part of Allah's choice for him. That He wants this person to keep talking to Him. And for Allah to keep listening to him, and for that person to keep making that dua. Because this dua that he's making is better than the thing that he's asking. You see? Because what is this dua? Ibadah. So that dua, that ibadah, Allah is saying, Allah, let me extend it a little bit so that you can engage in more ibadah. You will be grateful for it later. When you meet me, okay, and you will look at your deeds and you say, I made so much dua and so much istighfar because of this son or this daughter or this spouse or this house or this position or this disease. And it's this thing that will take you to Jannah. You say, wow, I wish it was even longer. At that moment, I wish it was even longer, because at least I could have made even more and more of it. So this is ibadah. So he says, if it is long and it's not coming quickly, he says, that is Allah's choice. Right there. Khara lak. And He's chosen what is best for you at this moment. Right? Just to extend it, so that you keep coming closer and closer. And if you give yourself to Allah Azza wa Jalla at this moment, you don't know how this is going to change you. Not only then, but forever. It can change you completely. That experience of losing something, being afraid of something, and praying to Allah repeatedly and giving yourself to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala could completely change you. So open yourself and give yourself to Allah Azza wa Jalla. واعلم أن الله تعالى إذا نظر إليك وعلم أنك قد جعلته معتمدك وملجأك وأفردته بحوائجك دون خلقه أعطاك أفضل ما سألته وأكرمك بأكثر مما أردته. He says, know that if Allah is looking at you, looking at your heart, and He knows that He had made you, or you had made Him, your refuge. And Allah is your refuge. And the one that you depend on, no one else. And the one that you ask and no one else. أَفْرَدْتَهُ بِحَوَائِجِكَ. Meaning you've asked Him more than you've asked humanity. Or sometimes without asking humanity, depending on your situation and depending on how much help you need. For some situations and some help and some personalities, you can only ask Allah and no one else. And for other people, you need to ask Allah Azza wa Jal and then consult other people to say, do I need more help or not? But if He sees that you're relying completely on Him and you're asking Him alone, He will give you better than what you're asking, and will honor you with more than what you are requesting or expecting. That is His generosity. If He sees that from you, that you completely are surrendering to Him, His generosity has no limits. You want this particular thing, this small thing, He will give you so many things that are better and greater and beyond that one thing that you're asking. But He wants to see the inside of this person, his heart or her heart. So he says, فَإِنْ عَجَّلَ لَكَ الْإِجَابَةِ, if he gives you what he wants soon, so he had combined between giving you your need and the best of this dunya and the akhirah, if you ask Him in this manner. And if He does not quickly respond to your dua, He will give you something better than it. So you are good either way. Whether He gives it to you or not, you're good either way. And that is the kind of trade that you want to be in, when there is no loss. The kind of business and transaction you want to be in, where it's always win-win. You will never lose when you're dealing with Allah Azza wa Jal. If you ask, either He gives you exactly what you wanted, and so you got that, and plus, if you asked Him, Ya Allah, if this is good, give it to me, then He'd given you the best of this dunya, or if He does not give it to you, He had also chosen what is best for you. He says here, وَاسْتَرِحْ إِلَى مُنَاجَاتِهِ وَتَلَذَّذْ بِعِبَادَتِهِ. He's going now into a stage of dua, where in the beginning of dua, and maybe you've felt this, I hope inshallah, all of us do feel it. Where you begin by asking Allah Azza wa Jal for something, and that would be your primary concern. I'm there in this qiyam, I'm there before Fajr, I'm there after the salah, I'm there in the sujood because I'm asking for this thing. And that's your primary concern. You can move from that into a time or to a feeling where you start enjoying the conversation that you're having with Allah Azza wa Jal because it makes you feel better. Yeah? Because you can forget about that pain or that anxiety, and you move to a time where you are actually enjoying this conversation with Allah Azza wa Jal, and you feel better once it's over. I mean, in a sense, because you've given it to Allah and you've spoken to Allah. So when you're done, you feel better. So you keep doing what? You keep coming back to it. Right? Because you want to feel better. And being close to Allah makes you feel better. So you keep coming back to it, and coming back to it, and coming back to it. And then you'll find sweetness in communicating with Allah. The just conversation with Allah, conversing with Him, asking with Him, spending time with Allah, itself is sweet. This moment, that primary concern that you had, that brought you to dua, may become secondary. You may forget about it or may not forget about it, but it becomes secondary in comparison to the feeling that you're having when you're making that dua. So then he says, وَاسْتَرِحْ إِلَى مُنَاجَاتِهِ. Find comfort in this private conversation that you're having with Him. And find the sweetness of that ibadah. Feel it. Okay? And that comes out of loving Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay? Really like being immersed in the love of Allah, that you're enjoying that conversation and being close to Him more than you enjoy being close to your dearest friend. The dearest person that you have on this earth, you know the comfort that you have when you're sitting next to them and how happy they make you feel and secure. You'll feel more of that when you're with Allah Azza wa Jal. Much more of it when you're with Allah. So, it's reported that Sulaiman al-Durrani دخل على أبي أحمد بن أبي الحواري. So somebody visited another and he was crying. He says, why are you crying? He's asking him, why are you crying? So he's trying here to comfort him, but also to make him feel that sweetness that we talked about. He says, if you see the people who are standing in prayer at night, and they are standing in their maharib. This is the house masjid that you have. Your place of worship. And they're standing on their feet and they're communicating in private with Allah Azza wa Jal, asking Him, pleading with Him for Allah to release their necks. This is fikaku ruqubihim, to save them from hellfire. Right? And their tears are, dropping on their cheeks. And then Allah Azza wa Jal here looks at them. While they are in that condition, standing by themselves at night on their feet, and they're crying and they're asking, Ya Allah, save us. It says, then Allah looks at them and He says, Ya Jibreel. He says, بِعَيْنِي مَنْ تَلَذَّذَ بِكَلَامِي وَاسْتَرَاحَ إِلَى مُنَاجَاتِي. He says, the one who finds sweetness in talking to me and comfort in being close to me is under my protection and is beloved to me. بِعَيْنِي, meaning I'm looking at them, I'm protecting them, and they are dear to me. Like, look at them. Sort of reminds us of that hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he mentions that Allah looks at the people of Arafah. When they're coming to Him and asking for forgiveness. So it reminds us of that. He says, looking at them in this position, at this time, and what they're doing and what they're asking, He says, I love these people, and they're under my protection. He says, Jibreel, why don't you call on them and say, why are you so afraid? Do you know or have you heard of a beloved who punishes those whom He loves? Have you heard of someone, if He loves people, that He would punish them? Right? كَيْفَ يَجْمَلُ بِي, or how would I, or how would it be or possible for me, that I would let them stand in salah while they're crying and asking me for all of this? And how would it be possible for me to punish them after all of this? It says, I swear by my honor, their reward is going to be that when they come to me, I'll reveal the barrier so that they can look at my face as long as they want to, and I will look at them. It says, like those types of people. It says, because he's comforting someone who's crying. And it's good to cry out of the fear of Allah Azza wa Jal, but He also wants to bring him this balance. And He's saying, if you love Allah, fear of Allah, and you're worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, don't you know what is happening? You can't see it, but don't you know what is happening over there, that Allah is looking at you? And again, without inspiring pride in us. Because pride is the disease of the shaitan. Because he tells you, now Allah is happy with you, that's it. You are a wali. No. That happiness, if you feel that happiness, that should motivate you to more of it. And to more humility. Not less of that act and more arrogance. Okay? So if it inspires more arrogance, you know that this is the path of the shaitan. More humility, it's coming from Allah Azza wa Jal. But it says that Allah is looking at you. And He's so happy with you, that He is telling you that I love you. And it's not possible for me to punish anyone that I love. And I did not make you stand up at night to pray, to send you to hellfire. You should be afraid of hellfire. But I did not make it easy for you, because I want to send you to hellfire. I want to bring you into Jannah, so that you will get the greatest thing in life, the greatest thing in existence, for you to look at me, and for me to look at you. That'd be the greatest thing that people will get when they enter Jannah by the will of Allah Azza wa Jal. And he also quotes here some worshipper of Allah Azza wa Jal, and what's the thing that he was saying when he was worshipping Allah. These are nice things to have. Not nice thing to feel, inshallah, you know, maybe as you're worshipping Allah Azza wa Jal, or as you're engaging in your ibadat, you can remember some of these things. Not memorize them, just remember them. Remember some of these feelings. So he's talking to Allah, and he is saying, وَعِزَّتِكَ وَجَلَالِكَ. I'll just translate. He says, وَعِزَّتِكَ وَجَلَالِكَ. I swear by you, by your honor, by your majesty. When I sinned, I did not want to disobey you. Not willingly disobey you. That's not why I sinned. I did not want to bring upon myself your anger. Okay? Because I know fully well how severe your anger can be. I'm not an ignorant person. I know how severe your anger can be. I did not want this punishment to come even close to me. And I did not think that you're looking at me and belittle that look. I did not take that lightly. It's not because of this. وَلَكِنْ زَيَّنَتْ لِي نَفْسِي. But it is myself, my ignorant self, that made this sin and disobedience beautiful to me. وَأَعَانَتْهَا شِقْوَتِي. He says, and my misfortune pushed me to do it. So I know your majesty and your greatness and that punishment that I could receive. And then you're looking at me. And it's not that I took any of that lightly, but it's just my own weakness that had pushed me to do this. وَغَرَّنِي سِتْرُكَ الْمَرْخِيُّ عَلَيْهِ. And that thing that you had concealed my sin so far, that deluded me. Because I wasn't exposed so far. And that concealment pushed me to believe that again I can do something else, and it also will be concealed. فَعَصَيْتُكَ بِجَهْلِ. So when I disobeyed you, I disobeyed you with ignorance. وَخَلَفْتُكَ بِجُهْدِ. And when I disobeyed you, and I did sometimes, subhanAllah, with that disobedience, all my best to disobey. فَالْآنَ مِنْ عَذَابِكَ مَنْ يُنْقِذُنِي. So who will now save me from your punishment? وَبِحَبْلِ مَنْ أَعْتَصِمُ إِنْ قَطَعْتَ حَبْلَكَ عَنِّي. Who would I hold on to if you disconnect from me? Okay. So what is he expressing? Yeah, I disobeyed you, but I need you. And if you disconnect from you, and if I'm away from you, and you go away from me, who else is there for me? And who is there to save me? SubhanAllah. Right? So yet I disobeyed you, and I knew that I disobeyed you, but I have no other recourse or way but to come back to you and seek your forgiveness. He says, وَسَوَأْتَاهُ مِنَ الْوُقُوفِ بَيْنَ يَدَيْكَ غَدًا إِذَا قِيلَ لِلْمُخِفِّينَ جُوزُ. He says, what a shame. How ashamed I will be, what a disgrace if I stand before you on the day of judgment. If Allah is going to ask you, what about this sin, what about this sin? And then I hear the call of, oh, those who are light of sin, pass. Go to Jannah. And those who are heavy of sin, stay on your place. Will I be with those who are light of sin or heavy of sin? Right? He says, woe to me. The longer I live, the greater sins I earn. So he's looking at himself, and he's blaming himself, and he's admitting his guilt. And the older I get, the greater my calamity. Okay. فَمَتَى أَتُوبُ وَفِيكَمْ أَعُودُ. When am I going to repent? When will I come back to Allah Azza wa Jal? Okay? I miss the youth time, I miss the youth time. وَشَبَابَهُ وَشَبَابَهُ. So if you're still young, Know that you're in a ni'mah, a great ni'mah of Allah Azza wa Jal, because you still have, at least in theory, a lot of time before your death is supposed to come. And that is a time where Allah will love for you to obey Him, because the distractions are many. So many distractions. I don't know if I told you this or not before. He mentioned in some of the books, he says like youth is a form of insanity. Youth, ضرب من الجنون, a form of insanity, because there are so many bad things you can do, and you still don't have the maturity and experience to balance, okay, your ability. So with all of these distractions, if you obey Allah and you are close to Him, these are one of the people who deserve to be shaded on the Day of Judgment, when there is no shade except the shade of the throne of Allah Azza wa Jal. Meaning that you are among the special ones. Okay, 7 categories, right? Among the special ones. You pass the test, flying colors. So he's saying, he's standing with Allah Azza wa Jal, and he's looking at his life and what he had done in it, and he's blaming it. And that blame brings on regret, brings on asking Allah for forgiveness and repentance. So you can ask Allah Azza wa Jal, you can converse with Allah in this way, in similar ways, in different ways, as long as you're speaking and talking to Allah Azza wa Jal. This is what is required of us, right? To be always close to Allah. Not close to our phones, not close to our tablets, not close to our friends who are thousands of miles away, and yet we're closer to them than we are close to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah is closer to you than this friend. Allah is close. See, before, Allah is closer to you than your camel, right? Now it's closer to you than your phone. Right? It's closer to you than your phone. He said that we pay more attention to our phone and spend more time with it than with Allah Azza wa Jal. So inshallah, let me stop here and see if there are any questions or comments, or you can get ready. Tfaddali, na'am. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So the words are in your head, and what? Now, when we say the heart, we mean by the heart and the mind at the same time. Now, we mean by the heart and the mind at the same time. And the more that you feel, the more impact that dua and that dhikr will have. You feel it in yourself to begin with, even before you see the outcome coming from Allah Azza wa Jalla. You feel it in yourself that when you make a dua and your heart is with that dua, that comforts you. That comforts you, right? Because the dua is there. Because the heart is there. And the mind is also with it. Just in your mind, inshallah, that's fine. If you're feeling it into your heart and it's just in your mind, but your mind is in that conversation with Allah, you're good. You're good, inshallah. You're good. It's not necessary to verbalize at that moment, that dua, as long as this conversation in your mind is going. Of course, it's more complete when the tongue is also speaking. That's full dua. But sometimes when you're with other people, when you're driving, when doing something else, and it comes in your mind, and your mind having this conversation with Allah, that is good. That is good. Naam, so those moments, you want to, inshallah, those moments when you're crying and very close to Allah, right? You said they can happen during the day. At night, maybe not. You're tired or something. So whenever they happen, they are ni'mah from Allah. Take it. Whenever they happen, they are ni'mah from Allah Azza wa Jal, so take it. But also, we're not only waiting for them to happen, we can create them. And we can create them by praying and making dua and reading the Quran. And the more that you stay with it, the more that your heart softens and you can reach that state. So maybe at times when at night you're tired and you're sleepy and all of this, so that your mind really can't concentrate. Yeah. Sahih. Your body may not enable you to be fully, cognizant of what you're saying. That's a possibility. But if you try, inshallah, to sleep during the day, or, compensate for that sleep so that you're awake and fully conscious of what you're doing that moment at night, it'd be better, inshallah. Exactly. Alaykum salam.
You mentioned that when you make dua, it's best to, or it's a good practice to say, if it's good for me, great to me, otherwise I mean what you think is best. But what about those ahadith that mention that do not say in shit, like do not make a dua and say if you wish?
Sahih. Jazakallah khair. So the brother is saying that there are du'as from the Prophet ﷺ that when you're asking Allah, do not say, Ya Allah, give me this if you wish. Right? Because it's really superfluous, redundant. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا مُكْرِهَ لَهُ. Because Allah, no one forces Allah. So you don't have to say, Allah, if you wish. They're already there. Ya Allah, give it to me. And only if He wishes, He's going to give it to you. And if He doesn't wish. So Allah, the Prophet ﷺ is saying that's not part of adab with Allah Azza wa Jal. So, Jazakallah khair, dua has adab with it. Right? It's like, think about like going and corresponding with a prime minister or with a president or with a queen, right? Some of them have etiquettes and how you're going to address them. Allah is greater and higher. So there is adab in dua. So you have to learn the adab of dua so that your dua doesn't turn away. It's not turned away. So anyway, but that thing inshallah is not included in it. Because there you're not saying, Ya Allah, if you wish. You're saying, Allah, if you know it's good for me. So it's distinct from it. And it is based on the dua of istikhara. Because the dua of istikhara, you exactly say this. Ya Allah, if this is good for me, give it to me. And if it's not, don't give it to me. Exactly. Oh, if you wish. Yeah, it could be that if you're saying if you wish because you feel like you're being polite, but actually it's not polite. It's not polite. Like if you suppose, subhanAllah, it's all on a human realm. But if you suppose, for instance, that there is a king and you say, oh king, you may give me this if you wish. He may slap you, You say, oh, well, who's going to force me? Of course if I wish. Of course if I wish. Take him away, right? Take him away. Don't come back. Right? No, Allah is not, Allah is more merciful, right? It's just to give you an idea. Okay, that's good. I say, Jazakallah khair. He's saying that there are some people who may fear istikhara because you're asking and you're afraid that the answer is not the thing you like. So you don't want to ask, Ya Allah, if this is bad for me. That's an instance where you're too attached to this thing. Right? You're too attached to this worldly thing that you're asking for, that you're afraid that it not be good for you. So some people say, I know that some people have said, Ya Allah, if it's not good for me, make it good for me and still give it to me. Right? Still make it. That's like stubborn, right? It's like if it's not good, you can make it good. Just change it so that it's good. I just want it, whatever it is. It's not good. If it's not good, it's not good. So don't be afraid. You're asking Allah Azza wa Jal. You don't want Allah to give you something that later on you will say, Ya Allah, why did you give it to me? Yeah? Didn't I ask you that if it's good, to give it to me? If it's bad, why did you give it to me? He said, but you were asking for it. You were asking for it, right? So let me see if I can read this. If you ask Allah not to give you long life, as the world is getting tough to stay in, on Islam, is that okay? Khair, inshallah. So the question is that, can I ask for death if I'm asking for death because of fitna? Right? So that's the question. If I'm asking for death because of fitna. Generally, right, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا يتمنين أحدكم الموت لضر نزل به. Let not one of you ask for death because of a harm that has happened to him. Because you do not know. Right? If you're asking for it, are you asking Allah to cut your life short while there is still some good in it? So meaning that, rather ask Allah Azza wa Jal, Allahumma ahyini ma alimta al-hayata khayran li, wa tawaffani ma alimta al-wafata khayran li. Ya Allah, give me life as long as you know that life is good for me, and take my life when you know that death is better for me. I'd say this is the best to do. That's the better dua to do. But to give you a full answer, some of the ulama have said that when a person, or in a time of fitna, and a person knows that it's difficult for him to endure that fitna, and it's a great fitna, that it's possible, based on some ahadith, that it's possible for him to wish for death and to ask for death. Right? But we will make this as the exception. Okay? As a small, tiny exception. Because we do not know how you and I are going to interpret this fitna, and then all of a sudden all of us are saying, Ya Allah, take us away, right? So rather, I would say, adhere to this dua, which is comprehensive from the Prophet ﷺ, because in it already, you're asking Allah for this. You're asking Allah, because if there's a fitna, and Allah knows that you cannot take it, Allah will take you away. Because that's embedded in the dua. وَتَوَفَّنِي مَا عَلِمْتَ الْوَفَاةَ. Take my life when you know that death is best for me. So already you're asking this. So ask that and leave it at that, inshallah. But just to be honest, with the answer, yeah, some of the ulama have said that if it's really a strong fitna and you know that you cannot endure it, that you can ask Allah for that. And that fitna typically is not, by the way, it's not a worldly fitna, it's a religious fitna. It's a fitna that is going to tempt someone religiously. It's not just, pain here or this or that. It's a religious fitna. Because what you fear over there is that your religion is going to go away. Your religion is going to be lost. So if you lose your religion, you lose everything. So you want to die before losing that religion. Yeah. Now, can you ask for the opposite? Ya Allah, extend my life so that I can do more good? Obviously. Which is the first part of dua. أحيني ما علمت الحياة خيرا لي. Alright? Give me life as long as life is good for me. And the Prophet ﷺ made dua for his Sahabi Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu, that Allah would extend his life. Right? And he said ﷺ that of the best of deeds, or of the best of people, من طال عمره وحسن عمله. من طال عمره وحسن عمله. Who lives a long life and his deeds are good. Or the best of people who lives a long life and his deeds are good. So you can ask for that. Allahumma atil umri wa ahsin amali. Give me a long life and also good deeds in it. So that's a legitimate dua based on that hadith. Inshallah. So, no one? Khair, inshallah. So next week, inshallah, we're off. The Saturday after, inshallah, we return. Jazakum Allahu khaira. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka.